I'm Ariel Azor, host of Right This Way, and today we're going to talk about why I don't support Black Lives Matter. So I don't support Black Lives Matter as the movement in itself because I think it is, I think it has nothing to do with race, to be completely honest with you. I think Black Lives Matter, the movement, is a Marxist movement meant to bring Marxism and socialism to America. I think it's meant to be sort of disguised as this very worthy, justice-seeking movement that is all about justice for people who are of color, justice for him and justice for her and all of this. It's justice and we're fighting against injustice, and that's all that it's supposed to be about, right? And unfortunately, nowadays, I mean, you know, if you don't have a Black Lives Matter sign in your yard, or if you don't, you know, post Black Lives Matter on your Instagram, whatever, the black square thing, all of that stuff, or just if you don't support Black Lives Matter, you automatically are racist. Now, here's the problem with that. Black Lives Matter, the movement, if that is completely about saying black people's lives matter just as much as other people's lives matter, then there's no issue with it. If Black Lives Matter's only goal and purpose is to ensure that every Black American, man or woman, has the exact same rights and freedoms as every other American, no matter what color their skin, okay, there's no issue there. That's fine. You can do that. You can do whatever you want. And if you don't support an organization that simply seeks equality for people of a certain skin color, then you're probably racist. Here's the issue and why I can say I don't support Black Lives Matter, the movement, and not be racist. Now, the movement itself is completely drenched in different communist, Marxist ideologies, and it's not really about black people, unfortunately. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. But they've confused so many young people and so many people of color that this is what they need to be a part of. Young people, in that if you don't support this, you are racist. Listen, I don't need a sign in my yard saying Black Lives Matter to point out that I'm not a racist. My actions should do that. Unfortunately, we have turned this into everybody's a racist unless they support Black Lives Matter. And that's not how the world works. That's not how it used to work. It's not how it's ever worked. You've never had to walk around saying, I'm not a racist. That's insane, because racists are the minority of people. Okay? So it doesn't make sense that the majority of people have to walk around and say, I'm the majority. That doesn't make any sense. It's just like child sex predators. We label them sex offenders and we put all of these labels on them and rules where they can't live in certain areas too close to schools, too close to playgrounds, things like this, because they're sex offenders and they are statistically a smaller amount of people. So we label them and we say, you're not normal. It's the same thing we should be doing for racists. If you're racist, you get labeled as a racist. And if you're not, you're not. If you're not a child sex offender, or if you're not a sex offender, you're not labeled a sex offender. You don't have to walk around saying, hey, I'm not a sex offender. Can you imagine if people had to do that? That doesn't make any logical sense. And it never does. But here's what we're doing is we're walking around and we're saying, you know, you use the black fist, and we'll get into that later. You use that as your profile picture on something, or just whatever, you post it, whatever, you're supporting it because you have to support it or you're racist. And that's what they say. Now, unfortunately for young people, I know a lot of people, I have friends who, you know, are in college. They have a lot of friends who are black. They have a lot of friends who are white. They have friends who are whatever, different skin colors. It really doesn't matter what their skin color is. But they say to me, I've had more than one friend say to me, I feel like I have to support Black Lives Matter because my friends are black and they support it. And if I don't, then I look bad. I look like I don't support them and I don't want them to be safe and all of these things. And I think that's really kind of silly that we've done this, because this movement, like I said, it's not what it's disguised as. So we'll get into that now. The co-founder of Black Lives Matter is a woman named Patrisse Cullors. She is a self-proclaimed Marxist. There's a video of her saying that, talking about Black Lives Matter, how it's founded on the ideas of Marxism, because she is a Marxist. I'll just play that video for you real quick so we can listen to that.
I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories. And I think that what we really try to do is build a movement that could be utilized by many, many Black folk.
So they're building a movement to be utilized by Black people. And they're trained Marxists. She literally says right in her video right there, we're Marxists. This is a Marxist movement. Okay, I mean, she doesn't say this is a Marxist movement. But seriously, if you didn't get out of that, we are Marxists. It's a Marxist movement. And it might be able to help Black people because of the way that we're doing things and disrupting things. That was the gist of what she said. Now, you can interpret it however you'd like. If you didn't like my interpretation, I purposely showed you the video and then interpreted it so you could know I wasn't just bringing that out of nowhere. But you do you. We'll look at some quotes from their mission statement as well, because, again, if the video of one of the co-founders talking about the other founder, I think Alicia, if that's not enough for you, her saying we are trained Marxists, like literally we are trained Marxists, those words come from her mouth. If that's not enough, we're going to read some quotes from their mission statement. You can go onto Black Lives Matter website and you can find their mission statement under like About Us or something. I was like doing a little research on this, and they have these are just direct quotes I pulled from it. So I'll read a couple of those to you. Every day, we recommit to healing ourselves and each other and to co-creating alongside comrades, allies, and family, and a culture where each person feels seen, heard, and supported. So nothing specifically Marxist in here with the word Marxism, but they literally say comrades. That's not normal. Like, I'm just so concerned for young people my age that can look at this movement and say, oh, it's not a political thing. It's not about politics. It's 100% completely based off and founded on politics, except it isn't the typical left or right in this situation. It's something left or right. You should really be concerned about Marxism. You shouldn't support that no matter what side of the political spectrum you are. And if you are an American, you should not support Marxism. So we'll go on to our next quote here. We practice empathy. We engage comrades with the intent to learn about and to connect with their context. Again, comrades, I'm just super concerned that they're saying comrades. But the we practice empathy thing, I just thought that really stuck out to me, not just because it says comrades in that quote, but also because you practice empathy, yet Black Lives Matter protesters and stuff are all in favor of all cops are bad, kill police officers, and just all of these terrible things against police officers, and that's not empathy. Next, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. There's literally so many concerning things in that one statement right there. If there was nothing else I could pull out of this, I would have pulled that out, that one quote. Because this is like literally like you could pretty much pull this out of the Communist Manifesto. We all learned about communism in history class. You cannot tell me you didn't, unless maybe you went to public school. I guess that's a possibility. I really hope you're still learning about communism and what it means. But literally, like if these things do not scream communism to you, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. Okay, so Western prescribed, that's not something that Americans say, right? That's not Americans. We don't consider ourselves Western. So the people that consider us Western are obviously, can be from all over the world, but typically you hear like Middle Easterners saying that we are Western culture. Muslims just in general will typically refer to American culture as Western culture. So Western prescribed nuclear family structure, that to me is just kind of bizarre that made that in there. But the nuclear family structure, biblically, it's kind of always been that way. And people definitely were big supporters of the nuclear family until very recently, where we started to really hate on the nuclear family, actually. We call it a terrible thing. We say that it's toxic, which is ridiculous. But, that's what culture does today because we're so anti-Christian in this culture. But when we dig deeper into this is where we get into the heart of communist roots here. By supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another. So what communism, Marxism, what this does, one of the 5 points or whatever of communism is to take children very early from their families and to have them raised completely by the government so they can indoctrinate them, they can teach them to think and feel however they want them to. They control everything that they learn from such an early age that they are never allowed to form their own opinions, so that they can never know enough information about history or about the government to ever want to rebel against it, to ever think this government is oppressive. So it's very ironic to me that the whole movement is saying we as Black people are oppressed. That's the whole facade of the movement, is Black people are oppressed in America by the government, mind you, by police officers and white people and the government filled with white people. And in their very mission statement, they point out their solution to that by saying, we're just going to have the government take care of it. We want you to be oppressed by the government. Okay, that sounds a little counterintuitive to me, but we can go with it. So then it goes on to say, especially our children, that we collectively care for another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. And I think that's the catch there, is it's trying to make it sound really good. It's trying to make it not sound like what I just said it is. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is a straight from the Communist Manifesto, pretty much lines here. This is nothing good. We do not want our children to be taken from an early age by the government and indoctrinated. I mean, we could argue that public school is doing that already, but communism is a very, very strong form of that. Everything is more intense. You cannot get away from the government. It's very 1984. Now, if you still don't believe me and you still think, no, this is still about Black Lives Mattering, which, by the way, they do. Of course they do. If that's not enough information for you, we're going to talk about the logo, the Black Lives Matter symbol. Now, they've changed it a tiny bit as Black Lives Matter has gained so much traction in the last few weeks and months, because now I'm seeing mostly Black Lives Matter typed out in 3 lines in black and white. And that's on signs or whatever. But the Black Lives Matter symbol, logo, if you will, is a black fist, black and white, but the fist is always black because it's supposed to represent Black people. And again, like I said, communism, Marxism, these are the ideologies that Black Lives Matter was founded on, is still integral to its entire framework. And if you're thinking that this looks pretty familiar, you would be correct, because this is literally exactly a copy of the communist red fist. It's like, here, this is the Black Lives Matter one, and this is the communist one. But they're different. Yeah, no, they're different colors, but that's really where the differences stop. It's literally exactly the same thing. I'll show you 2 pictures up on the screen that are obviously, the red one's the communist one and the black one is the Black Lives Matter one. Spot the difference. You can't, because like I said, they're pretty much identical. They literally are the same thing. And it shouldn't come as a surprise because Black Lives Matter is founded on communist ideologies. I really hope that's enough for you to consider. Just consider. Next time, before you're posting Black Lives Matter, all cops are bad, before you're posting this, consider what Marxist, communist followers get out of this. And that's the catch right there, because you're saying, well, why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. I still want to support Black people. They're using them. They're 100% using them. And now you're saying like this, the co-founder I showed you, Patrice Cullors, she's black. She's not using black people. Look, the left politics, they use black people all the time. They have been doing it for years. They tell black people, you are oppressed in this country. The only way to get out of your oppression is through us, the government, to solve it for you. We're going to fix it for you. We're going to give you money because you need slavery reparations, and we're going to take care of people discriminating against you so you can have affirmative action. You have first priority to jobs just because of your skin color. And now they're even turning to segregation, but like voluntary segregation, which is really weird to me. I won't get into that today. Hopefully you know why that's so weird, but they're doing all of these things. And again, using black people to get their votes and to reach a political goal. Now, Black Lives Matter, obviously they're not getting votes, but communism is all about having a ton of civil unrest until they reach their goal and they weave their way into the government. They take control of the government, and then they start taking control of your family. They start taking control of your job, private businesses. That's what communism does. Again, if anybody wants more research on communism, we can do that. We'll have a whole communism episode. My point here is to point out that Black Lives Matter isn't about black people. Just because there's a black fist logo and it says black in the name doesn't mean it's about black lives. It really doesn't. This movement has nothing to do with that. And we can go on to say for more proof about their actual actions. Like I said, your actions are so much more important than what you say. Me saying I'm not a racist does nothing. Me going out, interacting with people, and not having encounters with people that walk away saying, wow, that person was racist, that's how that works. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. Their actions, what they've been doing, looting communities, burning buildings, and I know some of this can be put on Antifa, which isn't Black Lives Matter, so they say, but some of this can be put on them, of course, but it doesn't really matter. Again, I've showed you all of their communist leanings and all of that. So these actions make sense if you're communist. They make total sense. So it's definitely somewhat Black Lives Matter. And people that are saying, oh, I support Black Lives Matter, I support the looting. I've seen so many things of people justifying this. And AOC said that they were looting in communities because they needed bread or something. And I mean, they weren't even looting like food places. They were looting like Best Buy and that sort of thing. It's just ridiculous. Looting, I mean, it's just, there's really no way to justify going and taking a bunch of free things. There's absolutely no way to justify that you can then sell or have or whatever. There's absolutely no way to justify that. Those things do not belong to you. You're stealing. There's literally, and people are saying that's the biggest thing I've heard is they're looting to prove a point. And the point they're trying to prove is that a bunch of stuff is not worth more than people's lives. But the way to point that out is not to destroy people's livelihoods, people's businesses. It's not to take money from them. It's not to take things that don't belong to you. That doesn't point that out. It just makes you look bad. We as a community have to stop saying, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, just because they don't have a sign in their yard. That doesn't make you racist. And by the way, having the sign in your yard also doesn't make you not racist. Sex offender can walk around saying, I'm not a sex offender. But then people are just going to be like, yeah, sure, you're not. Because he's creepy. And you know he's a sex offender because of his actions and the way he acts around children or women or even men. You know because of his actions. Again, with racism. You're only racist if you act like a racist. And if not, then hey, good job. You're not racist. You fit in with the majority of Americans today who are also not racist. This isn't about oppression. This isn't about Black lives in America. It's a really well disguised and really well marketed through social media platform for Marxism. And, you know, I've shown you that today. I hope that you at least consider this. Again, you can support Black people. Please do. I do too. I'm all for equality for everybody in America. I'm all for that. But I don't believe this is what this movement is about. If we continue to say, yeah, I support Black Lives Matter, if you don't, you're racist, that's going to be the issue, because we're just making everybody a racist. You can't just say, because you don't agree with me, you're racist. Because I could just talk to any man and say, oh, you don't agree with me, you're sexist. That's silly. That's absolutely silly. You cannot use that for everything. You cannot apply it to everything. And we're so sensitive nowadays that even comedy's not funny, and we're not allowed to say, this has nothing to do with your skin color. You can't say it does. The minute somebody who isn't white says, is this because of my skin color? Everybody has to like walk on eggshells, and you have to figure out, can we fire this person? Are we going to get sued for firing them because of their skin color? All of this stuff. I just think that's ridiculous. Again, this is the issue. This is the issue right here. And we're supporting it. This issue is so and I don't even think it's well disguised, but it's become so taboo not to support it that everyone feels like they have to. You don't have to support something that you don't believe in. You're just as bad if you're saying, yeah, I support this, and you don't actually believe in it. I mean, you're just as bad as not supporting it. So if you have friends that cannot be okay with having somewhat different political ideologies, you shouldn't be their friend. They do not deserve your friendship. If you are a conservative, whatever, somewhat right-leaning, and you have leftist friends and they don't support a single thing you do, they don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with them. But if they dislike you because of what you believe in, you shouldn't change your beliefs. You should get new friends. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can give me a thumbs up on YouTube. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can also check out my Instagram at right.this.way.